back into the political agendas of political forums.
Khazin, economist, please.
Good afternoon. So much has been said about the prospects for the onset of a new wave of the crisis. Andrei Klepach believes we will not see it in the near future. Some people believe it will happen. Let me express my opinion. In June 2008, at an event of the Dialogue of Civilizations in Canada, I said why this crisis would occur. Let me say it once again. The cause of the crisis is in that due to the need to resist the Soviet Union since the 60s, the United States and then the rest of the West began to stimulate individual private demand. The USSR was destroyed, but the individual demand accumulated never disappeared. And up as of now, household expenditures exceed 20–25% their disposable incomes. Other problems like EU government debt, US debt, are linked to one factor and circumstance: the need to support this enhanced individual demand. This is where the money issued goes. Clearly, it is not enough. Therefore, to say that the crisis is over and that there might be some alleviation and mitigation would be naive. Up until the expenditures of the householders attain some balance or equilibrium, there will be no end of the crisis. In the United States, the household expenditures exceeded at that time by 15%. In other words, the scale of the crisis will be higher than before. To imagine what it was in Western Europe in 1930s, and I'm talking about the Great Depression, the level of unemployment was 40% in Western Europe in the 30s. I will not talk about the social consequences, political consequences. I will talk about geo-economic consequences. Today, the entire world economy is a single system of the division of labor. Oh, the problems of Brazil we have heard, of Russia with its deindustrialization and others, are linked to one thing. We have one center of emission of money, which is the Federal Reserve System of the United States, and the demand, without which production cannot exist, is determined by where these dollars issued go. But for these dollars to come anywhere, an infrastructure is needed. This infrastructure is created for the present day level of demand. If demand goes down and the point of equilibrium for the demand for Western countries is lower than the present day level by 50% and by disposal increases by 35%, which was the case in 1930, which means that this infrastructure and the transnational financial corporations that determine the world policies, which has been said several times today, will become loss-making. A lot of resources have been taken away from them. They cannot move money without taxation. Now offshore are taken away. Whether Tobin tax is going to be introduced or not is a separate issue. EU may not be able to do it, but it still is a kind of the sword of Damocles. And then, after Strauss-Kahn, FRS system was taken away from this, was for 2 years, now past 2 years, is exclusively working for the budget of the United States. So these are loss-making entities in principle, and the single infrastructure and the division of labor amidst the decline in living standards by 2 times, which is the demand decline, will become loss-making, unprofitable. 2 options. For option 1, to write off all the debt on those financial institutions. The best way to write off debt is a force majeure circumstance, like a war, hence Syria. The second option is to change the financial model of the world and to dump all those institutions with their debt. And we see today the struggle over these 2 options. I already mentioned one group that wants to ignite the world to have their debt write off. The other group plans to do what was said by our Brazilian colleagues, to have several relatively independent centers of issuance of money issue. I realize there can be 6 centers: the dollar center, dollar area, Eurozone, Yuan zone, Latin American zone, together with South Africa perhaps, Indian rupee zone, and potentially Eurasian zone, which can be called a ruble zone just because Russia is the largest country here. The developments of the past several months show that the second script and scenario is prevailing, particularly this fight for the position of the chair of FRS, the group which was advocating the war and preservation of the existing financial system, lost, and Larry Summers removed his candidacy. I'm not a political scientist or conspirologist. I will talk about objective economic factors. From the point of view of the objective economic picture, this integration of the world into currency zones is inevitable. We wrote about it in 2003. The book was entitled The Downfall of the Dollar Empire and the Twilight of the Dollar Empire. And the strategic forecast we wrote about is surprisingly being implemented. One should also understand that the scenario to develop further requires certain events and developments. In Latin America, Brazil, there's an infrastructure being developed for one center of power. It is not occurring in Russia. I will not dare to discuss about the political situation inside Russia, but I think that the key elements of the development of such system, which is going to develop by expansion of the customs union, is the position of Turkey. I think the key element in this movement toward creation of the currency zone will be accession of Turkey to the customs union. I'm sorry that I'm so sad that we don't have a Turkish representative. It would be exciting to have a chance to debate this, explore it together. But I'm convinced that irrespective of the wishes of personalities, individuals, irrespective of the behavior of the various political forces, 2 things will happen within a decade. Number 1, the world financial infrastructure will disintegrate because there is no economic resource underlying it. And secondly, new regional political elites will emerge in the world which are non-existent today. I think these 2 processes are more interesting from the point of view of geoeconomics and geopolitics. Thank you for your attention.
Раз. And just now, please, Ageev Alexander Ivanovich, General Director of Institute of Economical Strategies, please.
Нашу дискуссию пронзает два вопроса.
There are two questions that this discussion raises. Is an economic model possible? And are there sources for optimism? Because we are normally pessimistic in our forecasts. How do I operate this? Let me dance a waltz of sorts.